Hi stamping friends, Melissa Kerman here with Melissa's Crafting Treehouse. Today I'll be sharing a club and free card kit project that is made with the Piece of Cake stamp set and the coordinating cake builder punch. I've also used the Stamparatus and will show you a trick for getting perfectly stamped and punched pieces using this tool. So I'm going to start with preparing some of my background pieces and save the focal piece till last. So I'm going to start first with using my Smoky Slate ink to stamp the Happy Birthday repeatedly on that small panel of very vanilla cardstock. Now I'm doing first, second, and third inking, several series of that for the Happy Birthday, and it's actually takes up about 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 inches after you've stamped all three of those. And I'm also stamping so that it's justified slightly to the left. So when I mount my other pieces, all the series of happies are going to show all along the left side. So we'll see a happy birthday at the top and a happy birthday at the bottom, and then lots of happies on the left. So it's kind of a pretty and fun layout that way. Next, I'm going to attach my inside very vanilla piece of cardstock. It already has adhesive on the back side. And I'm going to take my panel that I just stamped and put it along the left side of the card. Now I'm mounting that side panel so that it has an even edge on the top and the bottom and the left. Next, I'm going to start working on my blueberry bushel piece and my die cut circle there. I'm going to sponge the edges of the circle. Now that's a stitched edge circle from the stitched edge framelits, and that coordinates with the layering circles dies, which we'll also be using for the focal piece. And I'm also going to sponge the edges of the blueberry bushel cardstock. Now I did give people several choices for colors that they could use on their card. This panel here that I'm sponging was the one panel that could vary. So you'll see some other cards later at the end of this video made with some of the other color schemes. So they had cherry cobbler to choose from, crushed curry, this blueberry bushel, and mossy meadow. And for all of those, they had the sponge in order to sponge it a little bit with the early espresso along the edge. Now, if you are a free card kit recipient because you placed a qualifying order in July or August, you'll get some random color because I've already prepared those kits, so one of the colors that I described earlier. Now I'm going to get started with my cake, my focal piece, starting with stamping the candles right near the top of that very vanilla die cut circle, and just doing it right at the top so I'm leaving enough room for my cake and cake stand later. Next I'm going to put glue dots on the edges of my black organdy ribbon, my glittered ribbon. I love this ribbon. And just wrapping it around the bottom of that blueberry bushel panel. And now all my pieces are ready to go, with the exception of my cake and cake stand. Now I could just stamp and punch out my cake and cake stand images the old-fashioned way, but using this method can be handy in a couple of different situations. First of all, if you're doing multiple cards, this can be especially handy. Or if you have a difficult time seeing when you punch out a stamped image that it's actually perfectly placed and centered on the punch. So for this trick, you just take a piece of scrap cardstock, as you see that I have there, punch out those shapes, take your stamps, and place them precisely in the opening so that they're centered. Now one thing I do is take the stamp itself and kind of slide it side to side, and I'll be able to feel kind of the edge of the cardstock as it hits it on the left and the right, and kind of try to gauge that it's actually centered side to side and maybe top to bottom. And that's what I'm doing right there, wiggling it side to side. And then you just close the plastic plate to pick up those stamps, and then you'll need to ink up your image and go ahead and test that it actually was centered in that opening. Now this can take a little bit of fiddling with and repositioning of the stamp to get it just so, but it is worth the effort if you're doing multiples of these and of a single card or a punched shape. So I'll be using the Memento ink here, so I'm just inking it up, and I have the stamp set under the plastic plate just so that I have a nice surface, an even surface to ink up my stamp, and then I'm just going to stamp into the punched pieces. So now for this base piece I used the light and dark smoky slate blends alcohol markers to do a little bit of shading. Now I actually think you could get away without doing that, but the coloring really does enhance the card, I think. So I'm starting with my light smoky slate. I'm going to cover the whole surface and then go back in and do some shading with the dark smoky slate blends alcohol marker. So here I am with the dark blends alcohol marker, just doing a little bit of color in the sort of lower left-hand quadrants of all the segments of my base. And now I'm pulling in the light smoky slate again, and that sort of creates a bit of a third color. I'm basically putting the light where the dark and the light met, and now I'm coming in with my color lifter to kind of blend even more and sort of merge those colors a little bit and give it a little bit of texture. Now I've done the coloring for the crumb cake piece off camera, and I used a light soft suede alcohol marker to color that in. Now I didn't do any shading for the frosting, so it was just straight coloring in with that one color. I did add some Wink of Stella to the frosting to make it a little bit shiny, and I added some Wink of Stella to the candle flames as well. You may also be able to see here that the candle flames are yellow. Those were colored with a Daffodil Delight blends alcohol marker, and the candles themselves are blue, and I used Blueberry Bushel for that. Now you see here I am putting some glue dots on the back of my cake base, and I'm going to carefully get my positioning such that the cake base is all the way down justified at the bottom of the die cut circle, and the cake is perfectly placed right in between. So I've got it lined up there so I can make sure that the cake base is actually centered on the candles, and didn't press it down right away, just wanted to make sure it was actually directly under the candles. And I've got dimensionals on the back side of the cake, of course, and now all I really need to do is put that all together. Now you may have noticed that the cake itself is going to cover up a little bit of those candles, and that's just because the candles are a little bit long, but the candles look just fine being a little bit shorter, I think. And here's my completed card. As a reminder, this is one of the 3 free card kit program projects that you can get with qualifying purchases in July and August of 2019. To learn more about my free card kit program, make sure to check out the video description below. In the video description, you'll also find a link to my blog post for this project, which includes a complete supply list and project dimensions. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and happy crafting!